Okay, we'll make a start. It's just turned 12 o'clock. So thank you very much for attending today's Developments in Safeguarding Manager Masterclass. We are doing a quick fire update. So we've got a number of guest speakers who will be providing a variety of different updates that will be relevant to a variety of different organisations on the call. My name is James Parks. I'm the manager of the North Yorkshire Safeguarding Children's Partnership, and I'm going to be taking you through today's 1 hour session. So we will finish either just slightly before 1 o'clock. We are recording today's session, so it will be available for you to watch back and also to take back into your organisations and share with your colleagues. Whilst I'm presenting, I can't see the questions, but what I will do is I'll make various points. If there's any kind of comments in the comments section, feel free to pop them in and we can come to those periodically through the next hour. As Matt says, your cameras and microphones have been muted and turned off for the session. It just helps with interference. And just really some quick housekeeping rules, really. As I say, please feel free to put any questions in the chat and I will come to those. And if we can't answer them during the session, we'll provide some answers to those afterwards. Please feel free to sit back and enjoy. Hope you've got a brew. And if there are any opportunities to, as they ask questions, pop them in the chat and we'll pick those up as we go along. So in terms of accessing presentations, our suite of manager masterclasses are available online, so you can access those from our YouTube channel, and we will update this one next week. If you haven't been on there, you will access a variety of webinars that we've delivered predominantly over the last 2 years that are free, available for you to look in, share across teams, take bits of information out. And we would love it if you could give us a subscribe onto our YouTube channel to keep up to date with what's going on. I'm really pleased to sort of invite a variety of different speakers to this presentation today. And I'd just like to bring Lucy from North Yorkshire Police, who will take us through our first few slides. So fingers crossed technology works, and Lucy, you're able to take control, or I can push the slides through for you, whichever's easiest.
Yeah. Play. I can't request control, so I'll just do a Chris Whitty next slide, please.
Okay, no problem.
So I'm Lisa Minab. I'm a domestic abuse coordinator with North Yorkshire Police. I'm responsible for the DVDS, which is Clare's Law portfolio. So just next slide, please. So I'm not sure how au fait people are with Clare's Law, but effectively it was a scheme that was introduced following the murder of Claire Wood in 2009. She was murdered by her ex-boyfriend, George Appleton. Mr. Appleton had a significant history of domestic abuse, previous partners, known to Greater Manchester Police, and following Claire's death, her family said that she wouldn't have commenced a relationship with him if she'd known about his past. A complaint was made to the IOPC, so the Independent Office of Police Complaints, and a campaign was started by Claire's family, which gave rise to the scheme's introduction. So it's formally known as the Domestic Violence Disclosure Scheme, more commonly, I suppose, as Clare's Law. So just the next slide, please. So effectively with the scheme, there's two elements. There's the right to ask and right to know. Right to ask allows for we call it the PAR because the police love their acronyms, the person at risk, family, friends, professionals, really anybody to request information about an individual. But that information will only be disclosed to the person at risk. So it could be, for example, if you're a professional and you've got information that someone you're involved with has commenced a relationship with an individual who you might know to be perhaps an abuser historically, you can ring 101 or go online to the North Yorkshire Police request portal and make that request. And we'll generally get in touch with you just to confirm we've got it, and then we'll start doing the research. Right to know, so these are generally created by the police ourselves. So usually if we've got a domestic abuse officer who's reviewing a case, sometimes they come about through MARAC as well. So the MARAC will order an instigation of a DVDS. So that's another right that we have as the police under Clare's law, is to basically instigate that disclosure. We'll then approach the person at risk and offer that disclosure. Next, please. So how to initiate this as a professional, how to start it off. So call 101, they've got a standard question set they'll go with you. So they'll ask details about the person at risk, the subject, details of any children particularly. You'll then receive a call, email back within 10 days. Normally it's a lot quicker than that, just confirming receipt, as I've said. If we think there's a real sort of an imminent risk of harm and we need to get in there, it might be that individual's being released from prison in the next few days. It isn't uncommon. We've done disclosures which have been initiated the same day, authorised the same day and delivered the same day. So if the risk is there, we can step it up. So you might not hear anything back within 10 days, within that period, if we deem the risk is sufficiently high. And the disclosure itself, it says 35 days there. Right to ask is 35 days and right to know is 25 days. So if you're initiating, it'll be within 35 days. At the moment, we're operating a lot quicker than that, but that's just the time period we're allowed. 101, as I'm sure a lot of you know, has quite the backlog delay in answering at the moment. So you can also make the request online. There's a link there. I'm not sure whether the slides will be shared, but effectively, if you just Google North Yorkshire Police, Clare's Law, and again, it'll take you through the same question sets. What are your concerns, individuals, details, that kind of thing. So that's generally where we get the vast majority through at the moment, because it's much easier than 101. Next, please. So what information can the police share? It's only applicable to potential partners, ex-partners or current partners, so associates or friends are not covered under the scheme. I would caveat that by saying it's not uncommon for victims of domestic abuse to perhaps, particularly if they've got professional involvement, to perhaps not be particularly open about when they've commenced a new relationship. So if you have a belief there is a relationship there, by all means get in touch and we'll see whether we have any intel that might back up that suspicion, I suppose. Family members, again, the scheme explicitly states it's partners, ex-partners or current partners, but it does have a little bit of breadth in there to say that we can sometimes disclose to people who we consider can help mitigate the risk, or so it's confined, but it isn't confined. I know that's a very grey answer, I suppose. But if you're concerned about a family member and you think a disclosure is appropriate, then just come speak to us. My details will be at the end of this if anyone wants to get in touch about any particular cases or get some advice. So regarding the information we disclose, so doesn't just have to be convictions. We can share intelligence. We can share reports, NFAs, where they've gone to court and been dismissed or found not guilty. We can disclose all of that. What we're looking for is a potential propensity, so someone who's maybe got a pattern of abuse, and looking at, I suppose that when we look at their history, what sort of behaviours have they been exhibiting. The document itself, it effectively contains bullet points, I suppose. We talk about the behaviours because a lot of times we find it's really helpful to have maybe a bit more information in there, as you might see from other forces. Some forces just state they were arrested for common assault. We'll maybe put the MO in there. I'm not sure about whether all forces do that, but ours do in particular, because we find it's really helpful for victims of domestic abuse, particularly if they've been experiencing similar behaviours, to go, actually, I'm not alone. And that's really reassuring, actually, or they'll see things maybe post-separation if they're thinking about separation, and they'll know they can safeguard themselves from those behaviours. That abuser's got a propensity for that behaviour, so we can get in there, let them know it may happen, and get them protected before there's potential it starts. So it's not just about domestic abuse. Violence more generally, so it could be someone gets in fights constantly with other males, or GBH, or you know, that kind of thing. So it is fairly wide in its scope. Can share about historic orders as well. So even if they've expired, restraining orders, non-mols, DVPOs. Sexual offences can also be included, but these are a bit more of a grey area. So if they're non-conviction, we can't really go into any detail on them. And if there's a potential sexual risk to children, Sarah's law and CSODs may be the more appropriate route rather than Claire's law, because Claire's law really focuses on the abuse and violence. So I'll run through these very quickly. I know I'm on a short time. So how does it help to protect? So again, like I just mentioned, notifies persons at risk of behaviours they need a safeguard against, particular modus operandi, post-separation behaviours, or perhaps they're at the stage in the relationship where say if a perpetrator always escalates or seems to always escalate after 6 months, if she's making this disclosure or request for disclosure 4 months, and he's done it with 2 previous partners, we've probably got, you know, we've got an indication that it might escalate, so we can protect her or him before it starts. So not uncommon when we meet victims, particularly for right to know, where they say they know it all, or oh, that's not as bad as I thought. But again, a lot of us who have worked with victims of domestic abuse know that's minimisation. But there's a vast majority of victims who'll go away thinking, oh my God, you know, brave face the police, but it's sowing that seed for that victim to start maybe reconsidering relationship and take up help. So again, that last bullet point I've covered around the similarities in behaviour, knowing they're not alone. We do full safety planning with the victims as well. So the disclosures are either delivered by domestic abuse trained PCSOs or a member of our domestic abuse team. So it might be further disclosures are also made at those meetings, in which case we'll generally be in a police station, and more often than not they're done in a police station unless there's sort of extraneous circumstances, I suppose. So we'll be able to take statements or record crimes if necessary. And then it's not uncommon that we do it with partner agencies as well. So Children's Social Care, IDAS, we've done them jointly with probation as well. If we've got a victim who just is completely against police, we'll only engage with that agency. It gets us that foot in the door. If they come in the room and see there's a domestic abuse officer and then they leave, that's up to them. But at least we've tried that avenue. Next, please. And then it's just that real whistle stop tour. So my details are there. So if there's any cases, maybe you're unsure of whether it fits the criteria, or if you just want any further information about DVDS, my details are there.
Thanks very much, Lucy. That's a really topical, I think, in terms of the work that we're particularly seeing within the partnership and the wider partnerships around domestic abuse. So I think it's really helpful. I'll just have a quick look and see if we've got any questions. We've got one from Mel, the disclosure list. Who can you disclose about in Claire's law? It doesn't seem to marry with the definition of domestic violence and a wide range of possible perpetrators. Am I reading that right?
Do you mean in terms of disclosing to potential partners, ex-partners or current partners?
Let me see if I can just unmute Mel.
It's from the Claire's law sort of legislation itself. The person's at risk, so it stipulates we disclose to partners of the subject, ex-partner subject, or potential partners as well. Again, this can be family. There has to be some sort of intimate partner link, I suppose. I suppose that's a more basic way of saying it. We've done them when it's been one night stands. So I suppose it is fairly narrow, and again, it doesn't stipulate about family members, but within the legislation, there's a little bit of breathing space in there where it says we can disclose to someone who, well, we can disclose to someone who may help mitigate the risk. So I suppose that could be considered to be, say if the person at risk wouldn't take a disclosure, we could maybe consider giving it to her mum if she was perhaps under the age of 18. So, you know, domestic abuse, you can be a victim of domestic abuse from 16 and over. So we've done it before where we've given joint disclosure to mum and victim when they've been 16. I'm not sure if that answers your question, to be honest, but
yeah, it does.
Yeah,
it does, Lucy. Thanks. I mean, I'm sorry I was slightly late, but it just caught my eye, and you did refer to when you ran through those classifications. I do realise there is a slight difference, but I mean, I work for IDAS, so my first reach out would be to colleagues and then to you just to check in anyway, because we do appropriately talk about there's more, not distance connections, but there's more intrinsic connections, as you've just detailed. So that's fine. It's just in the written guidance, it doesn't marry, does it, all the time? That's all.
No. I mean, it might, when it becomes statute or statutory next year, we're hoping start of next year.
All crossed.
Yeah, well, optimistic thinking perhaps, but it might be a bit clearer. There are a few parts of the legislation which are a bit muddy. Generally, if there's one where people aren't sure about or not sure if it fits perhaps in a box, just initiate it, and we'll always do a review with the safeguarding manager, and we can see whether we can push it through.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you very much. Thank you.
No problem. Thanks, Mel. Thanks for asking the question, and thanks very much, Lucy, for your presentation. I can't see any more questions at the moment, but if anyone does have any that come to mind, pop it in the chat and we can get those answered for you either during the session or afterwards. So thank you very much, Lucy, for your input there.
Thank you.
So now we move on to a section on our Be Aware. So this is a Be Aware Knowledge Hub, which is a website that we as the Safeguarding Children's Partnership have developed along with our partner organisations. It's designed primarily at this stage with children, young people, parents and carers. And I'd just really like to talk you through the website, its developments and how we started with the concept of Be Aware. Hopefully people have seen some communication and comms material that's been circulated for this Knowledge Hub. The branding online is slightly tweaked from what you may have seen sort of a year ago. We've had a bit of a refresh in terms of our look of the Be Aware Knowledge Hub. So if we just move on to sort of covering what the Be Aware Knowledge Hub covers itself. So as I say, we have created some new Be Aware pages. There's an add-on really to the work that we'd already done sort of a year, 18 months ago, which was a professional site. Now it's a site that is aimed at children, young people, parents and carers and professionals. So that one-stop shop for pretty much everything to do with child exploitation. There's 7 themes of child exploitation that we cover, and you can see those on the screen, from child exploitation through to sexual, criminal, contextual safeguarding, harmful sexual behaviour, missing from home and care, modern slavery and online exploitation. So the website provides professionals with information and resources, including how to spot the signs of abuse, what to do if you're concerned for a child, and it provides a range of resources that you can use either professionally or alongside children, young people and families. And really kind of it's that one-stop shop with all materials. And we've always got an ask, if people find materials that are not on the website, then please do email them through and we'll review those. And if we feel that it's relevant, we'll upload that so that people can have sight of those themselves. So what does child exploitation look like in North Yorkshire? At this point, I thought it'd be quite useful to give quite a quick overview of the picture of exploitation in North Yorkshire. First and foremost, and I think really important to recognise that despite North Yorkshire being quite a low crime, largely rural county, criminal and sexual child exploitation does happen here. And I think there's some individuals that believe that it's something that happens in urban areas, but actually it is a reality check that it does happen on the streets of Ripon, Harrogate, Scarborough, Skipton, and we need to be really vigilant. Unfortunately, as I say, it can happen anywhere within our rural communities. We've got a number of links into North Yorkshire through transport links, so for the A1 corridor, We've got some obviously some high populated areas such as our Harrogate and our coastal areas around Scarborough. And people need to be aware of the signs and what to do if they have got some concerns. The ways in which criminals target and groom children in rural areas can be slightly different to those that are in sort of the living in a city, but ultimately we're dealing with the same issues. I think in terms of North Yorkshire, criminals can target people who are isolated, bored, who may they may see on a frequent basis in particular sort of places and spaces across the county. They obviously get their attention, the excitement, and potentially the gifts or money or valuable assets that they use to groom, sadly, children and young people. As we know that child exploitation happens in person, it also happens online, and we need to be mindful that, I know when we've done a lot of work with children and young people, they say that there isn't an online and offline, just life is all of that. And I think we can resonate to some of that ourselves as professionals, as parents, as human beings, that actually it's not like when I was at school where you kind of logged on to your home computer. You're living with technology 24/7, and it's at the touch of your hands. We need to be mindful of the places and spaces that exploitation happens, so bus stations, rural parks, people's homes, beauty spots. I suppose anywhere really, sadly, exploitation can occur. So in terms of the work that is happening, we know that we've got our MACE arrangements, which is our multi-agency child exploitation arrangements in North Yorkshire, that try to work towards tackling exploitation with a variety of different partner organisations. So the Be Aware Knowledge Hub really kind of supports the work that we're doing operationally in the localities. Just to give some context in terms of the messages and how we've developed, we've been working with children and young people and parents and carers, and we've been really grateful for those individuals who've given their time and their views and their experience to help us shape some of the materials. We've been able to look at language, and I think I'll touch on that in a little bit of time, but the use of language is really important when we're working in safeguarding as a whole, but particularly around exploitation and how we use our language and how that might affect people's perceptions or children's and families' experience of access to services. So we're really grateful for professionals from PACE, youth councils and youth forums, parents and carers who've been accessing PACE services, who again have provided their real life experiences into developing our parent and carer and children and young people's aspects of the Be Aware Knowledge Hub. Parents wanted us to, I suppose, increase the confidence to talk to children and young people about exploitation and how to keep them safe. And they wanted some resources that they can use if they've got some worries or concerns with their children and young people. And again, hopefully we can feel that a sense of pride that we've taken those views and put some resources together that will hopefully enable people to at least start having that conversation and know where to go for support if needs be. So if we have a look at the website in the pages and the content, firstly, I'm showing you the sort of the home page. Obviously, rather than technical difficulties of viewing the website live, we've taken some of the screenshots, so just to give you a flavour really of how we have developed it. You'll notice the rebrand, which, as I said earlier on, we've worked with individuals to have a bit of a fresher appeal to the Be Aware Knowledge Hub in consultation with children and young people who helped with the imagery and the content. So we've got a specific entry point for each designated sort of content is designed. So you'll see there children and people, parents and carers, professionals, and also we've developed an area for communities and businesses who will be able to utilise some of the resources that we've developed. So just looking at the children and young people's page to start with, all of the pages have that entry point, so that's a common theme across the website. Excuse me. You'll see sort of a commonality in terms of what is exploitation, what are the signs, where to go for get help, and how do I keep myself safe. So they're the kind of the key areas of points that we have split the Be Aware Knowledge Hub into. Information presented in the variety of formats, sort of images, text. Hopefully it's quite user-friendly. We've used videos and taken resources from a variety of national and local organisations who are subject matters in the field. It explains about child exploitation. It removes the element of jargon and includes sort of how we, I suppose, kind of looking at it from a young person's point of view, how they can recognise some of this either to themselves or to their friends. So the way we've used it is about how ways that they can keep themselves safe or how they can keep their mates safe in that context. It explains why people are concerned about it and what the issues are. And I think sometimes speaking to individuals who've experienced exploitation is that they feel that it's not something that they're not being exploited. So trying to understand it from a professional's or a parent's or just a caring friend's perspective, hopefully will allay some of those fears and worries and make people recognise that actually they may be being exploited, and it isn't about love, and it's about kind of what that individual wants to get out of that relationship. In terms of highlighting that we also wanted sort of a section around healthy relationships, again sharing those positive messages, and we've got some colleagues joining us a little bit later just to talk around some of the sort of sexual health services that again all interlink into all of the work that we do with children and young people on a regular basis. There's a section in there which I suppose is ultimately about how do I get that help now, that immediate danger in terms of calling 999, or how can I get to have that conversation with a trusted adult and kind of start to have that support be given across the professionals. The children and young people page and the parent and carers page have got very similar sort of entry points. Again, just looking at exploitation, what is it, what are the signs, how can they get help as a parent, and how can I talk to my child about exploitation. So again, just giving those kind of practical resources and feel. The key points here, a variety of sort of formats, as I say, it's hopefully very clear in its explanation. It's directly from children, young people and parent and carer voice. So we've taken that experience from people that it happens to in North Yorkshire, rather than sort of the experience of someone who may be being exploited or groomed in an urban area, and people might think, it doesn't happen here, but it kind of puts it into sort of a North Yorkshire feel for ourselves. In terms of stories, jargon busting, again, it's really important that we reduce or try and eradicate the myths of exploitation for both children and young people and parents and carers, so that we can help get a clear support package in place for those individuals. Hopefully, the site itself will be a resource that you can access. It raises awareness for you and for people you work with, reduces that stigma. It's providing some support, and it's that kind of content development. So we will continue to evolve the content as we know safeguarding changes on a daily basis, and new resources and materials are brought in. So we will keep this up to date as possible. And again, if there are any resources that you feel would be really useful to share, please do drop us a note and we can review those. For those that haven't already seen, we've got some new posters, we've got some banners, we've got email signatory banners, we've got a comms partner pack, a briefing pack that you can use. So if you were in an organisation, if you're from an education setting, an early years setting, a school, a health setting, you can use our pre-populated assets, put them in newsletters, on boards, on GP surgery, sort of display boards and things like that, and really get the messages out to our community that Be Aware is there. Exploitation sadly does happen here in North Yorkshire, and we need to be aware of that, and we need to be aware of how we can tackle child exploitation. So if you do want to access any of the materials, we'll circulate a list of web links that after today's session. But if you do want to make contact, you can speak to Kat Morrison, who has been developing the Be Aware Knowledge Hub within the Safeguarding Children's Partnership. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, and please help us share these really important messages to our general population. As I said, in terms of language, I think language is really important, that we need to utilise how we sort of share, and we've developed a dedicated area on the Be Aware Knowledge Hub, which is a use around language. The first question to you is, why does our language, I suppose, matter? I don't need you to write any answers down, but just have a think about why does our use of language matter? And I think it's really important to understand how we talk to young people, how we talk to parents and carers, and doing that in the most appropriate way. Has there ever been a time when negative or inappropriate language has been used about you as an individual, and how did that make us feel? And I'm sure we've all got experiences of that. But we've got to remember what the impact of people's words are, and sadly those words will stick with individuals if we don't get the words right. Those feelings may kind of evoke negative emotions or reactions, upset or anger or frustration. Some words can be really positive, and I think it's really important that we make sure that we are using those, and where we feel that other people are not using appropriate language, that we feel comfortable that we can challenge and reduce some of that language amongst our professionals. So we've developed some resources, again, some toolkits, some national input in terms of some Making Words Matter, which is a national working group document that have undertaken some published work. Here are the resources that you can see online. We've also got resources from the Children's Society, and again we've put our own material on there. So some really useful, practical, kind of, it gets you thinking about how you use your language, and I appreciate it's not just about exploitation. We could take this context into the world of suicide, so we don't use the word commit anymore. It's about children or individuals taking their own life. So again, it's just about how we can sort of challenge some of that stigma, and making sure that we're not using words that maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago we were referring to children as prostitutes, but actually that's not the case. These children have been abused, and we need to recognise it as child abuse. So we need to be really familiar with some of that. So it's some really good resources out there that you can have access to yourselves. So just to give you an example from some resources produced in the Children's Society documentation to describe young people's behaviour. So they're putting themselves at risk is a common sort of statement that people we hear and have read in a variety of different areas. But actually, are they? Or are these children being groomed? So we need to kind of look at the language and just kind of putting that into context, putting themselves at risk. Well, actually, no, there's an adult who's abusing them, and it's making sure that we're putting the blame on the perpetrator, not necessarily blaming the victim for the actions that the perpetrator is doing. Excuse me. So hopefully that's given you a bit of a flavour. As I say, it's if you go to the website safeguardingchildren.co.uk/be aware, you'll be able to access all of the resources if you're a parent, carer, a professional, or children, young people. And really, I suppose the action really for today's webinar will be to take this information into your organisation and help us promote and share that across our networks. So thank you very much for listening for my session. I would like to ask our colleagues. I'll just see if we've got any questions for myself. Don't think we have at the moment. Let me just check. No, I can't see anything at the moment. So if I could ask Emma, Julia and Lindsay to join us, and I will hand over to the three of you. I'll let you fight it out who's taking the slides first.
Thanks, James. So I'll kick off and introduce us, and then I will be handing over to the very capable Julia and Lindsay for the full presentation. So we're here hopefully to talk about sexual health. Oh, I've just lost the screen. Oh no, it's back. Lovely. We're here to talk about sexual health and in general some myth busting. So it's been brought to our attention that there's quite a lot of misinformation out there at the moment, and we just wanted to go through some of the key points that we felt was really pertinent to children and young people, and for people that work very closely with young people. So I'm Emma Davis. I'm a public health manager, and I work in the public health team and take a lead on sexual health and teenage pregnancy. And we've also got Julia Precious and Lindsay Brooks, who work with the Your Sexual Health service, which hopefully you will have heard of, which is York and Scarborough Teaching Hospital Foundation Trust, and they work for the specialist outreach team and their nurses in that field. So if we click to the next slide, please, James. I'm just quickly going to tell you what we're going to talk about. So we're going to cover the age of consent for sexual activity and what happens if people are below that, and particularly talking about young people that are aged between 13 and 15 and what happens there and what we can do and how the service can interact with people and what they can offer and what we can be provided. Definitely want to talk about the service and what the service offers, how it works in North Yorkshire, what the setup is, the opening hours, how professionals can refer, how young people can refer, how we can use the website. So everything that's available to you free of charge to access, and very much available resources really, and connections hopefully that we'll make today that will help you in the future, even if it's just a call. I'm not sure about this young person, give Your Sexual Health a ring and have a chat about it. So that's hopefully what we're going to cover in the next 15-20 minutes. So I will hand over now to Julia. Thank you.
Thank you for that introduction, Emma. Very succinct. Just from a health perspective, I'll let you all read the slides, but from a health perspective, we can see anyone from the age of 13 upwards, and that's because we use a document called Fraser Competence. Previously it was known as Gillett Competence due to a court case that had gone on in the 80s, so you might want to have a Google of it. We also have child sexual exploitation performers, that anyone under the age of 18, we use those performers on, whether we're in our outreach services or whether in our clinical settings. So our responsibility is to encourage the young person to tell parent, guardian, carer about that they're coming to our services and what treatment they're given. But we can treat them if they decline to tell the carer, if it's deemed to be in their best interests, and they will continue to be at risk anyway. If a child comes to our services and they're aged under 13, we do have a duty of care to trigger our safeguarding policies and inform the relevant authorities. So there's always that caveat onto anyone of the age that we see. So please be reassured about that. Can we have the next slide, please, James? That's not the... Right, sorry. So we don't have to inform a parent, carer, guardian if we don't identify any coercion, if the sexual partner's of a similar age, if there's no drug or alcohol involvement, and sex is occurring in an appropriate place. So from me just mentioning those, you can see the intensity of the questions that we do need to ask, and they are all appropriate. So appropriate of place is just for example, not in the park, not behind the supermarket. And we need to do, as health professionals, we need to deem that the young person is competent to make their own decisions, and they understand what they're doing, and they understand their treatment that they're going to receive from us. However, if there are adverse childhood experiences, then we will take into consideration the home life, the decisions that they're making, and to look at it as a whole picture. In the consultations as well, we always talk about sex, obviously, the law, consent, and healthy, happy relationships, and what's deemed as an unhealthy relationship. We talk about that sex should be fun and that it's not unreasonable to say no if they've already started having sex with someone and then change their minds. So every time a young person comes to our services, that they will be asked all of those same questions, because as we know with young people, situations can change between one day and the next. So we always make sure that the information we're asking is, and that we record, is current. We have had concealed pregnancies, interestingly, and because that's because the young person is unsure of the law, and they're afraid that both parties, the male and the female, or female and female, will get, well, in this case, sorry, male and female, they're afraid that they will get arrested and sent away, or the baby is removed from their care. So if we look into, delve into further why we're having concealed pregnancies, why people aren't accessing our services, that's all related to the myths that we need to bust, hence the name of this presentation. We do, all sexual health services, Emma said, are free for all ages, including 16 and under. So if someone wanted emergency contraception, pills, just condoms, testing, long-acting reversible contraceptions, everything that we provide is free to anyone accessing our services. Next slide, please, James. So we have a confidentiality clause that every person who comes through to our service, it's explained to them. So as soon as someone comes in for a consultation, a young person, we will say to them, everything that you tell us, everything we talk about remains confidential. We don't share records with hospital settings, so if you have a friend or relative that works at the hospital or in the laboratories, they won't see that information. Everyone is given a unique clinic number, so none of your details will be shared outside of the service, unless we have concerns about your safety or about the safety of someone you're telling us about. So that's every young person that comes through the service receives that information. But so we do share with other professionals as appropriate, and only information that's relevant. So we wouldn't say to another professional, unless it was relevant, this young person's come in and they have an STI, that STI is chlamydia. We only share relevant information. So even if the child says to us, I don't want you to share that information, if it's in their best interests, we don't have to adhere to their requests. We do try to ask them and gain consent to share information, but we do share it, as I say, if it's in their best interest. No one's ever been blamed for oversharing, but lots of serious case reviews have criticised professionals for not sharing between professionals information that's relevant. And so we feel that we're on fairly safe ground there. We have close contact with the MAS teams, with drug and alcohol services, with complete police intelligence forms if they're relevant, if the information we're getting, because as earlier on in the presentation, we ask for lots of information. And if the young person is telling us they're working with another professional, we do try and link in with them. So then with the pieces of the jigsaw about their care and their experiences are all pieced together, so we have lots of information around that person if there's a risk, if there's a concern around exploitation particularly. Can we have the next slide, please? So there is support available. Anyone over the age of 16 can order online tests, but if they're under 16, they will be asked safeguarding questions, and we will try and speak to them before we provide any sexual health services. Our website has both young people's, service users and professional pages that you can access information from. It is currently undergoing review, so you will see some changes occurring in the future, so do bear with us during that time. Our outreach team now has some LGBT plus experts working with us, and they can offer one-to-one support if someone's concerned, or if they have questions about their sexuality, or if they're not sure where to turn to, we offer support to professionals. And there's also a youth group for age 14 to 25. Again, you can find the information on the website, or if you're not sure, or the website it doesn't look very clear, which, as I say, it's undergoing some changes, then please feel free to email in via the website. We do have email contacts, so just go onto the website and look. And the next slide, please. So the team that Lindsay and I work with, I'm sorry, Lindsay, I'm conscious I've done all the talking. The team that we work in is the specialist clinical outreach team. If you felt that someone had vulnerabilities and they wouldn't access main services, you can please feel free to contact us and to pop a referral into us. Our referral forms are very straightforward. We ask for basic information and then usually contact the professional to get a little bit more background around that young person. Our referral forms can also be found and completed online on the website, or if it's something urgent that needs doing, we will talk to you over the phone, and we'll accept websites over the phone with a referral form following on later. We're very open to you ringing us on the phone number that's on the screen now for discussion and advice. We very much trust other professionals as to their identification of vulnerabilities. We don't challenge you on that. If you deem from the work you've done with someone that they are vulnerable, then we'll quite happily accept that definition from you. And we are happy to discuss any sexual health concerns that you have. On the referral form, we do have a little that we've recently added, a tick box that says, would the young person access main services if they are facilitated to do so? And that's because there's only 2 of us for the North Yorkshire, so it's a big county, and if anyone can be helped into services, we're very happy to do that, whether that's our administrative support, meeting the person in the car park, or us going to a specific clinic and saying, oh, do you remember we met? I'll meet you at the door, this is me. So we're very open to facilitating people into services, whichever is their preference. Some people say, absolutely, I won't be seen in the service, I want to be seen at school, I want to be seen with my early help worker involvement, and then we'll work with our partner agencies and we'll make that happen for the young person. That's everything that we wanted to say, so just open to questions, please.
Thanks very much for that presentation, Julia. I'm just having a look if there are any questions in the chat. I don't think we've got any. Oh, we've got Mel. Do you have any links to FGM services specialists within your service, or do you refer onwards to others?
Everybody should be using their own safeguarding policies relating to FGM. We have a York and Scarborough Teaching Hospitals Foundation Trust FGM, and I know that you do on the website as well, but we're very happy to share our policies if people ring up and saying, right, I need a starting point, and there is some excellent online training as well, so people can contact us separately if that's something. Mel, if you wanted, was it Mel? Yeah, Mel, if you wanted that, then we're happy to share what we use with you, but it's all policies that we use from our safeguarding.
Thanks, Julia. I don't know, Mel, if you're asking in terms of specifically sort of specialist services that you would refer individuals into. I think you can come off mute if you wanted to explain a bit more.
Yeah, we have our own work with FGM through IDAS, goes under our safeguarding, just as you've referred to there. It's just interested to know if across the district about specialist services that you might be aware of or referring to.
Mel, there's national specialist services, but we go through our own gynecology services, okay. and that's our input into services.
That's fine. It was just a general interest rather than a specific inquiry about a case. So
there's some great learning on e-learning for health. There's some great learning packages on there which we've always found really helpful, and all new starters access those as well.
Are you able to share those after today, or is that just internal training?
No, it's national training, so
Right,
have a Google of it if you can't find
Will
it.
do.
Please feel free to contact us and I'll share the link with you.
Fantastic,
As I say,
thank you.
it's really good training. You might find it a little bit medicalised, but we find it really helpful from a safeguarding children point of view.
Great, thanks a lot.
That's great. Thanks very much. Emma, anything to close us off in terms of that presentation?
No, just thanks very much for having us. It's been great to have this opportunity, and please do feel free to either contact me or Julia and Lindsay in the service if you've got any further questions. We really want to ensure that young people can come forward. They're not afraid to come forward. You know, we've got the free services for contraceptive offer, and how we facilitate that, as Julia has described really clearly, is really flexible. So even if it is through another organisation, through school or through early help or wherever that may be, there's definite flexibility with the outreach team. I've got a key remit around reducing unplanned teenage pregnancies, so trying to get the messages out there as clearly as possible that even if you're under 16, there is support available for you. And clearly the service, as described, use very clear safeguarding protocols and procedures around checking competency and ability to make consensual decisions. So yeah, that's the key message from me, really. Thank you very much.
No, that's great. And I know in terms of materials and literature and promotional materials, there's a variety of different offers, but I suppose from your sexual health website, you'll be able to get those links, and if there's any kind of need or promotional material, I'm sure the team will be able to support in that. So that's really great. Thank you very much, ladies, for that presentation. So we're coming up to the end of the presentation today. We did have planned just to provide some learning from our audits that we undertake as a Safeguarding Children's Partnership. But I feel probably in the time that we've got left that if I did it, it would be too quick and too rushed. So I think what we'll do is I'll take out the learning from this masterclass and we will record it separately, and we'll circulate that to attendees and put it as part of the package, just so you can hear firsthand the kind of the work and the areas of improvements that we've identified across our multi-agency partnership audit work. So I'm just going to skip a few slides across, and as I say, I'll make sure that those links are shared. Like always, our job is really about communication, building relationships and getting information out there to as many different professionals, parents, carers, children, young people, to ultimately make sure that children, young people are happy, healthy, achieving and are safe in North Yorkshire. So I'm sure many of us have social media accounts, either both personally or professionally, and really encourage you to spend a couple of minutes after the session today just on the social media platforms, either Instagram, Facebook or Twitter, and give us a like and make sure that you can keep up to date with our relevant information. Obviously, our website, safeguardingchildren.co.uk, has all of the information that we provide. There's an opportunity there for you to subscribe to our e-bulletin, which is a free monthly bulletin that comes out telling you about the latest news in all things safeguarding and broader sort of children welfare. And also we've introduced this year some podcasts, so looking at how we can, again, get information to professionals, parents and carers in a variety of different formats. So you can access our podcasts from anchor.fm and other podcast hosts as well. So all that leaves me to say is thank you very much for listening. I'll grace you with 5 or 6 minutes free time. If you'd like to utilise that time to, like I say, go onto our social media and give us a like. If you subscribe to YouTube, again, you can access all of our information. And if you subscribe, you'll be able to find out when we provide new content. So thank you very much. I hope you all have a lovely summer. We're going to take a break from masterclasses in August. But we'll be back in September for a variety of different topics for the autumn term. So have a lovely summer and we will see you all in September. Thank you.